Good afternoon. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and a huge thank you to MHMPA for organizing today's convening. My name is Sumati Joshi, and I'm a project consultant on this pivotal study done by the Reproductive Health Supply Coalition. I started my career as a youth MHMPR advocate and founded a social venture in India. And now I am a full-time consultant where I work on advisory on social impact as well as research projects. I have a background in public health and development studies, and I'm a Schwarzman scholar and have been supporting Tanya Mahajan from Development Solutions during this study. Tanya?
Thanks, Sumati, thanks. Sorry, I didn't quickly go because you can hear some of the background noise. I'll make sure I'm in a spot that doesn't happen when the webinar started, which is, yeah, the kids. So anyway, yeah, so thanks for organizing this, and really nice to meet everybody today. Like Sumati mentioned, we've taken this opportunity to extend the conversation on standards in the country based on the research we've done, which has looked at standards in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, and what is the status, and how can we look at sort of harmonization of standards across LMIC regions. So thank you for this opportunity, and I will mute myself now and make sure that I'm in a quiet spot for the presentation.
Okay. I would suggest we wait maybe one, 2 more minutes for others to join, and then we would start slowly. Already for the participants that have joined so far, just some technical remarks. You can always use the chat if you have questions. Please indicate it in the chat, and once you are not talking, also to mute your microphones. And for the panelists and everyone speaking, it would be nice to turn on your camera, at least while you speak. But I think that is already happening, so just to remind. Okay, we are now close to 40 participants, and I think step by step more will probably join. But I suggest we get started slowly, also because we have a lot of plans for today. So yes, welcome everyone and namaste to our event on standards for menstrual products. Quite happy to see so many have joined for this, on the first view, rather technical topic. But however, I think we will find out today that it has a lot of practical implications for many different stakeholders. And so we are very excited from MHMPA, together with the Menstrual Health Alliance India, to organize and convey this session today. Actually, how did it come about? In Nepal, there is a strong wish to improve the situation for youth and for adolescent sexual and reproductive health. There's a national strategy on it, and as part of this, also the government has launched, for example, the Free Pad initiative to give pads to young girls in public schools around the country. And in that context, also Ministry of Education has published a quality guideline for the procurement of these pads, that they should be compostable is just one element of it. And there have been challenges around this, of course, when it comes to local procurement. Stakeholders might need support in how to really enforce this kind of new guidelines. Additionally, there have been also developed standards for disposable sanitary pads together with the National Bureau of Standards and Metrology. That has implications mainly for the producers, but also, of course, for the users who benefit from that one. And it is a topic that is not mostly widely distributed or talked about. And we thought it is, a good chance for everyone concerned with MHM that is part of the Alliance to a little bit shed light on the development of such standards and also the implications it has for different stakeholders. So we are sure and we can recognize that the development the development of standards is an important step also on the road towards dignified menstruation. And so we are very happy here today to have this event. There will be a welcome speech now by Gunaraj Shrestha, the national convener of MHMPA. We then also, I would like to welcome already our chief guest for today from National Bureau of Standards and Metrology, Ms. Kishu Manandar. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. She's the director of the product certification section. And then we will have a panel discussion where my colleague Jyoti Karimal from MHMPA will lead and also introduce everyone regarding there. We will also have some more practical inputs from the experience from India, Menstrual Health Alliance India. So there's a lot to look forward to today. Once again, I would like to ask everyone who is not speaking to mute their microphones. And whenever you have any questions or comments, you are always free to use the chat. We will also look at the upcoming questions there and try to incorporate them in the panel discussion or towards the other presenters. So you're most welcome to participate in that way. Yes, so last but not least, my name is Tavia. I forgot to introduce myself as well. I'm from GIZ and supporting the MHMPA Secretariat. So yes, from now I would say enjoy the session. It will be mostly in English, but Gunaraj and Jyotika have volunteered to also translate some parts as necessary into Nepali language so everyone can benefit from that. Gunaraj, founder and national convener of MHMPA, I would now hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tavia. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. So first of all, namaste and good afternoon to all the distinguished guests here and all the participants here at this moment. So people are now gradually joining. Now we have 40 plus. So we are expecting there will be some around 100 people to participate in this. So this is quite utmost pleasure for us, especially for MHMPA, MHM Partners Alliance Nepal, to host this very important multi-stakeholders workshop on standards of menstrual products in its first kind in Nepal. So I think, in my knowledge, this is the first workshop of this kind in Nepal, especially of standards of menstrual products, right? So we are organizing this workshop in collaboration with Menstrual Health Alliance India, hosted by Development Solution, right? This is a very pleasant moment for all of us to know more about the quality standards of various types of menstrual products in Nepal also, and globally in India. There are many types of menstrual products being developed and being manufactured, being distributed in the countries, right? So today we are going to discuss what are the various quality standards set in different countries, including Nepal also. Tanya from India, she will be sharing the standard set in India and other countries. So it is very good to know what type of standards being set, especially for quality assurance of menstrual products, because menstrual products is very much health related topic. So it is the health concern of women and the adults and girls who use menstrual products. So this should be quite a healthy one. So the government in different countries, including Nepal, have set some standards to ensure the health of the women and the girls, right? So on this workshop, first of all, I would like to welcome our chief guest today, workshop chief guest and chief keynote speaker, Kishu Manandar, She the director of Nepal Standards Bureau of Standards. So kindly accepted our invitation to be the chief guest and keynote speaker as well. So it is very a pleasure moment for us, Kisu madam. So in the meantime, from Menstrual Health Alliance and Development Solution, uh, um, Tanya Maharjan and Sumati Joshi from India have also are also presenting some technical papers based on their recent research in India and other countries, right? So for us, it will be very interesting to know what type of quality standards, its compliance, its monitoring system in place in different countries, including in India, right? So I would like to welcome the technical paper presenters, especially Tanya and Sumati. So we have, as Tavia mentioned, we have some panel discussion also after some technical paper presentation. So on the panel discussion, we have Puneet Sarda from Disseminate Hygiene product and Mahesh Nakarmi from HICAF. Hopefully he should be able to join but he's traveling. And our Jivlal Pokhrel, Managing Director of CRS company. And we have one representative from cooperative from Surkhet. So I would like to welcome on this very important workshop all the panelists also. So here, most of our alliance members, Nepal alliance members are participating in this. So I would like to welcome all the members of our MHMPA as well. Right. So nevertheless, so this workshop being moderated by Tabia and Jyotika, I would like to welcome both Tabia and Jyotika. So this is all about to welcome on behalf of MHMPA Nepal. So it's quite important event for us. So we'll be having 2 hours, around 2 hours workshop. So once again, I would like to welcome our chief guest and all the panelists and all the participants. So we'll be quite enthusiastically we'll be listening and interacting on this very important workshop. So that's all from my side at the moment. Over to Tavia.
Thank you very much, Punaraj, for this brief introduction and welcome speech. To not lose much time, I would directly hand over to Ms. Manandar for your keynote speech. And we are very honored to have you here today. So welcome again also from my side.
Okay. Again, good afternoon. Namaste. Actually, first I just want to introduce myself that I'm Kisumananda, working as a director in the certification section. And from last 20 years, I've been working in the Nepal Bureau of Standards. First of all, I just want to welcome all of the participants, especially I just want to thanks the organizers for giving us the chance to be participates in these workshops as a director, as a chief guest, and the key speakers. And on behalf of the Bureau of Standards, I also like to thank the organizer, the Menstrual Health and Hygiene Management Alliance, and also all the participants from the SAF, Jasmine Hygienes, CRS, GIZ supporter cooperatives, and also the technical paper presenters, Tanya Maharjan of Development Solution Menstrual Health Alliance India, and the organizer Gunrai Shrestha and Tavia says. For all of you, I just want to welcome all the workshops here, and also I just will say that this workshop will definitely help and the value add on the set of your goals to become the knowledge of on the menus of yeah, actually in this section, I just want to say that the menstrual health section is the health and hygiene management has been emerging a big issues. In that case, as a standard body of Nepal Bureau of Standards from myself, I just want to introduce the Bureau of Standards activities, what we do, and how we can help this sector. So initially, I just want to introduce myself, and not myself, but as a Bureau of Standards, what they do. In that case, Bureau of Standards is a standard body of the national standard body which formulate the national standards, especially the products, systems, and usually the product certificates, and it's a natural standard body, and it formulates all the standards, especially the product, systems, and the process and services. And the NBSM in the short form is the Nepal Bureau of Standards and Metrology. It's the international member, the full member of the ISO and the IEC, and the regional full member of the SARSO. That is also the regional standard body of the SARSO. And it's also at the FOXM, in the case of, I just want to say that regularly as a government body, Nepal Bureau of Standards do the function of the standard formulation first. Then second is the product certification. Usually until now we have certificated the 65 types of products, and one of them is the sanitary pad. Also, it's on the process. Actually, Jasmine Hygiene, the manufacturer company, has already applied for the product certifications, and that sanitary pad is in process of certification, NS certifications. And the other is the system certification. We do also the system certification 9001, 22,000, and the 14,000s. And we also do the testing facilities. We have the different types of the laboratories in our premises. That is the chemical, microbiological, mechanical, and also we also do the calibration services. Also we do, and the training sections also. We also give the trainings who really needs as per the NS standards. We do provide the different type of services on the basis if the other customers or any clients we just give the clients customers if they want. We also do the training services also as per their demand, and we also do the metrology section. We have the legal metrology sections in the different regional levels, the 11 sections around the Nepal. And on the basis, we just like to say that on behalf of the NDSM, especially in this workshop, that is mainly this workshop is the standards of the menstrual products. We can provide as a government body, provide to standard other than the sanitary pads, just like a tap, the menstrual cups. There are different types of the menstrual products available in our countries nowadays, because only the sanitary pad is not enough. So we need different types of, because the people are more conscious about their health and the cleanness and everything, so that it's better to formulate other than the sanitary pads, also for the panties and the menstrual other products. I mean, they are in the market. There are so many products available nowadays, and there is the people are more conscious, and their choices are also the recommendable. And for that, we can help if the stakeholders apply us to make the standards for those products. And also we just provide the testing facilities for that, and the certification, product certification, and also provide the technical support for the monitoring mechanisms for those sectors, and also we can also facilitate the regional harmonization of the standards, because we are the full member of the ISO and the IEC. Also, we are the full regional member of the SARSO. So anyway, actually, this is my very short presentations and as keynotes for these workshops, and that whatever I have seen that might be that can be noted for, and that also, and finally, actually, maybe this workshops and discussion may outcomes really helps to the value add for your goals that is set for that you have already set the goals, final goals that you have to do the this is the I just written here that the goals set by the sorry, actually at the last moment this orange, I don't know about this explanation, but anyway at the last moment I managed this for the that is the at the last I have just know that the alliance has set one of their goals to become the knowledge hub on the menstrual health and hygiene management within the Nepal, and collecting and complying information activities on the dignified menstrual and making this accessible to all the relevant stakeholders as well as the public. That might be this a workshop definitely have value at this value added for these goals that might be this achieved, and that goals maybe that will be in the future. We will give the value add on the goals set by the alliance to become the knowledge of on the this MHS with the Nepal. Thank you, and stay safe and happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this inspiring speech, also Ms. Manandar. I think you have touched already on a lot of topics that we have also planned to address in the panel discussion later on, such as, yes, actually providing standards not only for sanitary pads, but also for other products that are now more and more available in Nepal. So we are already excited to hear more from you during the panel discussion. And I think now I would like to welcome and introduce again our two ladies from Menstrual Health Alliance India, who will give us a more detailed overview also of standards globally, on a global scale, so to say, of menstrual product standards and trends in there. So I would like to welcome once again Tanya Mahajan and Sumati Joshi from Menstrual Health Alliance India. Tanya is a senior consultant at Development Solutions and leads their research and advocacy on menstrual health, and she has more than 10 years experience in the sector as well, and also in market development of health products. So she also has this background from the private sector, so to say. She's co-founder of the Menstrual Health Alliance India and also co-chair of the MH workstream of Reproductive Health Supplies Coalition, also a very long name, as we like to have them here. So welcome Tanya on the one hand, and also welcome Sumati Joshi from Menstrual Health Alliance India, who is also a project consultant this Reproductive Health Supplies Coalition study. She started actually as an MHM youth peer educator, so I guess she has also a very long-standing experience in the field, around MHM, menstruation, dignified menstruation, and has founded a menstrual health social venture as well. And now she supports key research on these projects. So we are very happy to have you here today and to benefit also from listening to your experience and the research you have led so far. So without further ado, I would hand over to Sumati. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavia. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, perfect.
Good afternoon, everybody, again. Thank you, Tavia, for a very generous introduction. We'll now be taking you through a session on understanding the quality standards for disposable and reusable sanitary napkins. Specifically, we'll be taking a look at the global snapshot, what is happening across the world, especially in low and medium income countries, and decoding technical specifications. Our honest attempt is to make this session not very technical. We don't want to be warped in jargon. We want to break this down and talk about what this really means for consumers, for manufacturers, and for our government and CSO partners. A very quick look at the agenda. I will first be sharing the study overview. What was the genesis of the study which was pivoted by the Reproductive Health Supply Coalition. And then we'll look at the meaning and need of standards, the global landscape again, technical specifications. And then I will hand it over during a latter part of this session to my colleague Tanya Mahajan, who will take us through the experiences of standards development and compliance from LMIC. So we will be drawing from experience of various countries and various stakeholders and sharing some of those learnings with you. A quick study overview. This project has come to fruition with the dedicated and outstanding support of our partners, MHMPA Nepal being one of our pivotal members here. At this point, I'd like to thank the Secretariat for convening this meeting that enables us to share these critical findings. And also for us to learn from the Nepal experience. We would hope for this to be an interactive session. Please write down in the chat if you have any questions, comments, and we would come back to it later. We're also delighted to have the esteemed presence of the Nepal Bureau of Standards. Manandar ma'am, your comments were so encouraging when we heard about product choice, talking about having a wide basket of products, and the Nepal Bureau being open to offering standards development processes, so the stakeholders started within the country, and also your advice on the labs and testing facilities and trainings that are available. All of this is a great way to start our session today, and we are very thankful for your presence. A quick look at the methodology of this study. I will very quickly try to explain that this study had two factors that we took in. One was the primary interviews that we held with key stakeholders, which included manufacturer groups across India and other locations. We spoke to advocacy groups such as MHMPA, GIZ, a lot of UN bodies, WASH United, MHH coalitions across regions and geographies. We also brought in technical experts who really understand the technical specifications of such products, like microbiologists, material scientists, medical doctors, laboratories. And we, of course, had an incredibly important stakeholder within this entire process, which are regulators. We spoke to regulators across 4 regions in Uganda, Kenya, India. And we also spoke to the Swedish Institute of Standards, who are now working to propose within the ISO to have an ISO international level standard for menstrual products. Apart from these primary interviews, we also spent a lot of time on secondary reviews. We did our due diligence and read through technical documents of standards that exist, any supplementary documents, and guidance from national standard agencies within these target geographies. So all in all, we had a primary set of research and then supplemented by a very robust secondary review of existing documents and policies. We'll try decoding menstrual health standards now, but before we do that, I think it is important to understand what is menstrual health and hygiene. We recently had a definition come together in 2021, which puts a very robust and comprehensive definition for menstrual health together. It talks about menstrual health being a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity in relation to the menstrual cycle. Couple of keywords that stand out to us and that have been fundamental in us doing the study on standards has been this. It has to be effective, the product, the hygiene has to be maintained, the products have to maintain safety for the user, and they have to be affordable. And these 4 pillars fit very well into the standards discussion, because having a common definition of standards enable products to be effective, take into preferences and user choice, which ma'am referred to earlier, having a wide variety of products because different things might work for different communities. Maintaining high quality of hygiene, safety, and affordability. Let's talk about why are standards needed. It is really a whole life cycle that a standard affects positively. Establishing a common definition of quality helps every product gain a competitive advantage in the market. A high quality product is preferred by consumers. It also allows for free flow of products across regional and international borders and reduces costs for customers, because manufacturers then don't have to comply to various standards in various countries if there is a common definition of quality that exists. India and Nepal see a lot of trade flow, and I think this puts into perspective why this common definition of quality would be helpful at a regional and then of course also at a global level. Consumer trust comes in more easily if there is a certification from a national bureau or an international standards. It helps better quality products being accessed in the open market for users. It also empowers the consumer to understand that this product is high quality, and if not found to be, then access redressal mechanisms. So hence consumers are empowered and their trust within these products increases more. It also allows market pathways for new categories. So far, most national standards only have definitions for sanitary pads. This keeps organizations, governments, and other institutions from opening up a wide variety of products, especially for distribution programs. If there were standards, let's say for reusable products, more people could procure it, more people could distribute it, and also more consumers could buy it freely in the market, having that trust for this new product category, such as reusable cloth pads, menstrual cups. Also, this helps unlock government funding. Sometimes governments are restrained to only sponsor products that have certifications, and hence this enables governments and self-help groups and CSOs, community organizations, UN agencies to procure a wider variety. And then all of this put together reduces the cost of giving for subsidized and free distribution. And all in all, this affects product choice, which ma'am referred to earlier, product quality, which goes high because of the entire industry complying to standards, and product access to quality products increases overall. A quick view at the landscape of menstrual product standards. We've limited this to disposable and reusable sanitary pads across locations at the moment. We've put together a database of 27 standards for disposable sanitary napkins and 14 for reusable sanitary napkins now, including reference standards such as the United Nations standard, which just came out in 2021, the industry standards like INDA and IDANA and so forth. This resource is now freely available, and we will post in the chat so that you can have a look at this Excel database that is now available for all. Key insights in the current landscape. Most countries in the African region now have standards for disposable and reusable sanitary products. We attribute this to a lot of momentum that is driven by the AC-MHM coalition in the African region. The Western and Central Africa is still developing standards, but in the East and Southern African region, standards exist in most countries now. When we talk about South and Southeast Asia, here also standards exist for disposable sanitary pads mostly. Nepal has standards under development. The Ministry of Education has already released guidelines. In India, we have standards for disposable sanitary napkins since the 1970s, which was renewed recently in 2019. And we've also just very recently released published standards for reusable napkins in 2021. There is scope for joint advocacy in these regions, both in South Asia and Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, especially because countries like Japan and China are large exporters of these products, and they have fairly robust standards. So it would be beneficial for all to do some joint advocacy, look at harmonization, understanding and referencing their standards while our national standards development processes take place. We could not find a lot of data around the Latin American countries. This just shows limited advocacy focus on product quality, and there is definitely scope of increasing the same. Interestingly, Latin America also imports a lot of these products, and this is a market that is slowly maturing. Apart from having national standards and then having international standards with the UN GM specifications now, there are also some existing industry standards that exist. For example, the INDA and IDANA. These are specific standards for textiles that can also be referenced during standards development process. Developed country norms like the US FDA and EU are often referred to within standards documents. We see this in the East African standards in Africa and in India. And within regions also, then there are these regional references that are being drawn. For example, Indian standards are being referred to in the South Asian context, and East African standards are being referred to in the African context. Language has posed a barrier until now because some of these standards are in languages that are not accessible to all. It is also mindful for us to remember that standards are paid intellectual property, so sometimes that is also a barrier to access. Technical exchange with manufacturing and quality control experts in the region is also limited to LMICs. And this should be encouraged. We should have more technical representation on the table, especially during the standards creation process. We will now deep dive into the technical specifications, what goes into a standard, what are the various components of it, and what is the implication of it on the product. We've tried to draw a direct correlation with what is happening in the Nepal guidelines at this point. So we will take them one by one. Let's take a closer look. The first one is on material and design. All standards in LMIC countries, but in the US FDA and INDA-IDANA guidelines refer to what kind of material and what kind of design should go into the product make. This would include things like sizes, color, top material, middle absorbent, lower layers. So these are defined within these standards of what materials can be used to create this product and what should the design look like. The US FDA, the INDA-IDANA guidelines do not have these restrictions. Nepal and India have these specifications mentioned very clearly. Fitness of purpose. This is the important performance criteria for these products. We want to see that these products, which are primarily absorbents, are able to absorb, retain, and create a comfortable product for our users. And the Nepal standards require at least 30 ml absorption of the product. We have a similar guideline in India as well. Though on field, when these standards are being applied, it is found that 30 ml is the minimum criteria, and oftentimes a better product is created with higher absorbency levels that are available. Case in point is a state in India that put together a sanitary pad distribution scheme. They had 30 ml absorption criteria in the beginning, but basis consumer feedback, basis reports from the field and the ground, they had to ultimately adapt to a higher absorbency level to ensure that the product was well received by the community. On the hygiene and bioburden safety, the pH on the surface of the product and the bioburden, essentially meaning the presence of biome on the surface of the product after it is created, so the final product is included in most standards. It is to ensure that because these products come in touch with sensitive regions of the body, that the pH is maintained around the vulva, and also that no infections are spread because of the biome present on the top layer. Nepal standards require a pH between 6 to 8.5. This is very similar to IS. This is the same to IS 1390, which is the Indian standard. On material safety, some standards specifically mention biocompatibility to be tested according to ISO 10993. However, biocompatibility generally is referred to in the parlance of implants that are implanted within the body, standards still need to define this a little more clearly on what biocompatibility exactly means. The Nepal standards do not explicitly mention biocompatibility at this point, but they do mention that this product should be safe to use to ensure that there is no skin irritation, and it is a comfortable and hygienic product, which does not cause any external discomfort to the user. Lastly, but I think perhaps a very important consideration now is environmental safety. We have seen across the board a very heavy emphasis on including biodegradable or compostable napkins within programs. This has been a theme across locations, especially with government and CSO-run programs, where they want to be cognizant of the environmental impact of distributing and procuring these products. Nepal standards currently require that at least 90% of the product biodegrades or composts within 6 months of disposal. And while this intent is in the right direction, it is critical to understand the very nuanced difference between a product being compostable, a product being biodegradable, and a product being oxo-degradable. A lot of these tests that happen on compostability take place under industrial conditions. So unless a country has an infrastructure to support composting, the practical applicability of these tests in the real life is still to be researched and found out to be proven effective. There are a lot of misleading claims in the market too, with products claiming to be biodegradable, organic, so on and so forth. And all of these require certification and should comply with the technical specifications. I would just like to take a minute and talk about that little blue ball that you see on that diagram. These are oxo-degradable products. Just to clarify, oxo-degradable products are not biodegradable. They actually break down into microplastics, which then get mixed with our soil, our water, and are proven to be scientifically more problematic than other products available. So I think the key takeaway here is to make an informed choice and be educated when it comes to these differences between the kind of claims products make and the adherence that the technical specifications would require manufacturers to maintain. I would like to close with a quote, which we found to be very interesting and profound. We had a procurement stakeholder who said this in one of our interviews. He said that standards on menstrual products are not unique. They exist for many sectors. They've existed for a while. They are not reinventing anything. And it is not a massive cost, and it shouldn't stand in the way of a serious company conducting business. So while we understand that some of these technical specifications might be difficult for self-help groups and small organizations to immediately adapt to, we must also remember that our service to our consumers is important. And with a step approach, increased quality standards will be a beneficial intervention for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so much interesting information. I don't even know where to start. So I think I see some comments in the chat. Okay, maybe, I don't know if you have anything to say. So Mr. Pokral mentioned there is a slight distinction between oxo-degradable and oxo-biodegradable napkins. Could you say something to this?
You want me to say something?
Yes, yes, and then maybe some.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very concise yet very accurate presentation, Sumati. Thank you very much. While you were saying that oxo-degradable plastic, definitely if you just talk about the oxo-degradable plastic, they disintegrate in the presence of light and heat into microplastics, and those are causing problems. If not in Nepal, but definitely in countries which are surrounded by sea. There's lots of them just get washed to the sea, right? That's another. But there is also a class of plastics which are oxo-biodegradable, which is first they go into the oxo-degradation, that is break down into smaller particles, and those then go into biodegradation. So that's the distinction I just wanted to make on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pokrel. Sumati, you have, yeah, sorry, please.
I would just like to thank him for educating us. I think this was the objective of this convening, to come together and learn from each other. So thank you so much, sir, for pointing that out. And I think this is the distinction that we want to ensure that our technical leaders, our stakeholders and standards development process are cognizant of. Thank you.
Thank you. I see one raised hand by Mr. Ram Shah. Would you like to unmute yourself to talk?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to intervene. I am Ram Charitra Shah, representing Center for Public Health and Environmental Development, CFED, research-based NGO based in Kathmandu. We do a lot of chemical safety campaign, and this is one of the area where I used to raise even several times. I sent a letter citing different studies of sanitary pad having a lot of chemical contamination to be addressed while one is looking for making a standard or regulating it. So thank you for hosting this kind of like discussion, really needed for the country like Nepal. I wish to raise some of the concern which I perceive based on our studies and then related to this issue. First, I saw the in presentation, there is already initiation taken place towards fixing the standard by Nepal Bureau of Standard. I think it is NSMA, Nepal standard you was referring. I joined this little bit later, so I was not very much sure that it is the Nepal Bureau of Standard is going to make the standard, the proposed one. Okay, so in that case, it is right in place. The NBSM is the regulatory body who can formulate the standard of many products. But I have just one concern. All of we are discussing this issue today to make sanitary products safer for the users. And most of the time, NBSM standard is volunteer. So I wonder whether this proposed standard is going to be voluntary or going to be made mandatory soon. If it is going to be just volunteer, it doesn't make much sense, since it may not going to serve our purpose of having the standard in place. We can have the NSS standard, but until and unless it should be mandatory for each domestic as well as imported product, it is not going to serve. So let us work for mandatory standard, no matter which agency is making. I appreciate any agency which is responsible for making this should make as soon as possible, and it should be mandatory, not the voluntary. First things I want to share. That the recent studies even in India by Toxic Link about the chemical constitution of sanitary products includes several deadly chemicals including EDCs like BPA, phthalates, in addition to other. So that has to be taken care of by any proposed standard. These kind of chemical constituent parameter should be there. And I also saw that it proposed 90% should be biodegradable, but other way around, if we think the composition of the most of the sanitary product available in the market has 90% plastic. So it is opposite around, like NS standard is proposing 90%, it should be 90% biodegradable. But in reality, in market, the product has 90% plastic, which is most of the time non-biodegradable. So I'm wondering how we can going to make a functional standard, a workable standards that can be implemented effectively. We don't want a standard just for the sake of a standard. It should be implementable or enforceable.
Yes.
We should consider another. I saw the one proposed parameter, pH 8, maximum value was 8 plus, I think. I think that is already very much alkaline, not fitted with the suitable for, maybe not suitable for the human body. 8 pH is very much alkaline. In my opinion, I don't know, but maybe whether it has the proposed value is based on certain studies or not, I don't know. But
thank you,
that,
Mr. Shah. Maybe just looking to the time, I would
I'm just ending this. So just I want to have mandatory standard, and then a standard should be workable.
yes,
And
yes.
I would be happy to contribute to any such positive discussion towards having this. And also we think of final ultimate waste disposal of menstruation. So we
Exactly, that's a very important point. So I would suggest, thank you so much, Mr. Shah. It was very valuable input you gave us. And I would suggest to take this up later in our panel discussion. Maybe Ms. Manandar can, or Madam Manandar can also explain a little bit from the sides or from sides of the National Bureau, how they are planning to develop the standards and implement them, if they should be mandatory or voluntary. So yeah, I would welcome this to put it in the panel discussion, and we will keep your questions up and address them again. And for now, I think I would, thank you. I would invite Tanya for the second part of the presentation, if I got it right, or will it be later? Sumati?
We can do the presentation after the panel, but Tanya, do you have some?
It was that part. Sure. Sorry, I got confused. Okay,
Yeah.
very great. Then we are perfect in timing. That is excellent. In that case, yes, I would hand over to my colleague Jyotika from MHMPA Secretariat as well. She will be moderating now the panel discussion, and it's a perfect opportunity to take up also your questions, Mr. Shah, and important issues that you raised. Jyotika, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tabia, and thank you, Sumati and Ramji, for all your contribution. Now we start the panel discussion. So before I start the panel discussion, I'd like to request all the participants to kindly fill up the Google form so that we have a data of your participation. The link is in the chat box, so I'd like to request you to do that. Now moving on to the panel discussion, let me first introduce all of you to our panelists. So first of all, we have Ms. Kishu Manandar, who's also our chief guest for this event and is the director of the product certification section of the National Bureau of Standards and Metrology. And next we have Puneet Sarda. He's the director of Sarda Group of Companies, and he also looks after Jasmine Hygiene. We also have with us Dr. Jiblal Pokhrel, Member Secretary, Nepal CRS Company. We also have Ms. Shetra Saud, who is the manager of Jivan Jyoti Women's Cooperative. And hopefully we'll also have Mr. Mahesh Nakarmi, who is the founder of HIGAF. Now I'd like to start the session by asking a few questions to the panelists. So I think I'll start with Ms. Kishu Manandar, Madam, if I may have your permission. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Maybe the panelists could also enable their videos. That would be very helpful. And we can see them and I can pin them to the ground. Thank you, Mr. Pokrel.
Kishuji, are you there? It looks like Madam is not there right now. So I think we'll move to Punitji for now. Punitji, do we have you here?
Yes, hello. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Punitji. Thank you. So would you like to introduce yourself again? I gave a brief introduction and so maybe.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. I would like to thank MHMPA for inviting us and making this program, organizing this one. My name is Puneet Sarda. I'm Director of Jasmine Hygiene Products. Jasmine Hygiene Products is a manufacturer of sanitary pads and baby diapers. Since the last 15 years, we were the first manufacturer in Nepal. Jasmine Hygiene is part of an industrial group called Sarda Group of Industries. Our factory is located in Viratnagar, eastern part of Nepal. Yeah, that's my introduction.
Okay, so Punitji, along similar lines, now that you've been in this industry for quite a while, why do you think it is important to have standards, and like who will have the overall benefit from the standards development that might take place in the future, or the standards, protocols that we have right now? So what do you think of that?
Yes. I'd like to recall an incident that happened about 8 years ago. We used to export our sanitary pads to different countries around the world. We used to export to India and Middle East and as well as Africa. For one of the countries in Africa, probably I forgot, was it Ghana or Kenya? They asked us, they got this products and they were happy with it. They were happy with the pricing, and later they asked about whether our products conform to any standard, or if our country, if any authoritative body from government body of Nepal could confirm that our product meets any standard of sanitary pads. So there was no standard at that time. So we went to different bodies. We went to Trade and Commerce Mantralaya, and then we went to Udyog Mantralaya, and then went to export department. So there were we had a different kind of meeting, and because it was a huge contract for us, and it was a good business. We would have exported, brought in dollars for the country, but it was after a lot of exercises, we were not able to get any kind of document or proof from any of the government agency. So we had to leave. We had to cancel that contract. So that was an incident that happened 7 to 8 years ago. Since then, we are trying to lobby with different government bodies that even for export, it is important that we get a certification about the quality of the product. And as well as more importantly, for the standard is required, since sanitary pads is a very sensitive product, and there are, like, of late there are different brands, different importers, different manufacturers who are doing this kind of business, but there is no particular standard. For example, we have we have a mandatory, as Mr. Ramcharitra Shah had said, whether it is going to be mandatory or voluntary. In a few examples that I'm going to, like in cement, it is mandatory. There is a standard. For steel rods, it is mandatory. For refined edible oils and ghee, it is mandatory. So all these products, consumable such products, have IS and then have NS, and they are mandatory. Likewise, for sanitary pads, I think it was long overdue. I think there is a confusion amongst us that the sanitary pad, the standard for sanitary pad is under development. No, it is not under development anymore. It has been formulated and it is out, published already. So I think to differentiate, to make sure that the consumer gets a proper product, and since we all know that the usage of this product is very sensitive, if the product quality is contaminated or the product quality is not good, it can bring ill effects to the health. It can also disturb the dignity of the person who is using it if it fails to perform at due time. So I think yes, I think so. My answer, is there anything I have left to answer your question?
So another part of the question was that, who might benefit from the standards development or the standards protocol that we might have or we have, Am I audible right now?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are. Yes, you are.
My internet can go. Yeah.
Puneetji, did you hear the second part of my question about how,
Once again.
Yes, sure. So I was asking who would have the overall benefit from the standards development, that might happen in the future or will happen shortly. Who might benefit from the action?
Repeat it once again, please. Can you repeat it once again?
Yeah, sure. So I was asking who will have the overall benefit from the standards development? Which stakeholders?
I think the biggest beneficiary will be the customer, the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think, and secondly, it is going to be the importer or the manufacturer who is selling a good quality product and have to compete with a not so good quality product, because if you look at the two different products, it all looks the same. So the biggest beneficiary will be the consumer and then the quality manufacturer or importer.
Okay, so we have another question for you about, what are the challenges when it comes to developing standards and how can we ensure that producers comply with them?
Like I narrated the incident a while ago when we had to export. The challenges is to make the government understand the requirement of a standard, to make them aware that this is a product, this is a sensitive product. It can play with the health and hygiene of the consumer. So there has to be a certain benchmark for the quality. And to formulate a standard for us in Nepal is not so it's not so difficult once the certification body standard board, the agency that makes the standards, once they realize it, it is not so difficult, because we have, since as Madam Manandar said, that they are a part of bigger standard making organization all over the world. So it is, it's not so difficult to make a standard. However, in the current standard that we have formulated, there are a few things. We were a part of the core committee that formed the standard. There are a few aspects of the product's performance that has been ignored in that standard. However, the standard has been formed, and it is a great leap for us in Nepal from the point of a consumer and the manufacturer. Now, coming back to your second question, how do we make sure that the manufacturer or the importer complies to it, to the standard? There are many requirements when a country allows the import of a particular product, or the manufacturing of a particular product. For example, if we export, say, electrical cables to India from Nepal or from any other country, ISI is mandatory. Likewise for cement, likewise for structural steel pipes, galvanized pipes, a particular variety of steel wires. There's so many different. These are non-tariff compliances that has to be adhered to. So the way the import can be regulated, so that to make sure that the quality product is being imported and sold in Nepal, such compliances can be made mandatory. And secondly, as Saram Shah had rightly mentioned, that the standards, if they could be made mandatory, all the manufacturers and all the importers will have to adhere to, will have to meet and sell. We have to comply with the required standards. So that is the, I think, easiest solution, if that is our goal.
Thank you so much, Punitji, for your input. So we will get back to you in a few minutes to talk more about the manufacturing side of the standards of the menstrual product. Now I'd like to request Kishu Manandar ma'am, if you are here, then maybe we could start with you now. Madam, do we have you here?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Great. So my first question to you is, how does the Bureau of Standards work in the process of, developing standards? Maybe if you could explain how the process works for, the less technical expertise with the audiences, if we have some who would like to know in simple language and in simple terms about how the work in the process of developing standards happen, then that would be great.
Yeah, actually, during the process of standard formulation, usually we get the request from the customer for making the standards. Without, actually, we don't forward ourselves, but we need a request from the other side, just like a customer, either from the business sector or the individually or some other government organization. May they also, but first they request to make the standards. Then the first we just have to go through there are several steps. Making the first we just hello. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Please.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then in the first cases, in the first steps, we just go through the request letters, and then after that, we just make the as a technical committee in which it represents all the stakeholders from the academic area and the business sectors and especially the concerned persons for that standards. And after that, the committee, the technical committee, and within the few members from that technical committee, we just make the sub technical committees, and the subcommittee technical committee, they just draft the initial drafts of the standards. Then after the finalize the technical, actually there are so many phases during the process of the standardization, and mostly all the working groups are the sub-technical committees, and the technical committee initially drafts the standards, and then after there are the meetings, there are so many meetings also going on during the initial process of the drafting. Then after the approval from the initial draft, then that draft goes to the technical committee again. Then from in the consensus basis of that technical committee, then they will just finalize the final draft of the technical that standards. Then that go through our council, that is the NCS, and from the council that they approve. If they approve the standards, then that will be now it might going to be our standards. That is ICS, the chairperson, secretarial chairperson is our ministry, and there are also certain committee in the ICS. Also, there are the 13 members in the ICS committee, and but the TC committee, there are more than it depends upon the standards. Usually we just involve all the stakeholders in that technical committee, and all the expertise especially for that standards. That is the process.
Great. Thank you, madam. So we have another question for you, and it is about, what are your plans, or let's say, what are the plans of the Nepal Bureau of Standards and Metrology to disseminate information down the chain for the procurement stakeholders? So how do you plan to disseminate information that you have to different stakeholders in the procurement?
Actually, we don't have such type of plans now, but especially for these products, that is the menstrual products, and the other products, for example, other than this, especially for those products which are the highly demand in the markets everywhere, we just consult with the stakeholders. Mostly in the TC committee members are the stakeholders, and we just convey to them, and that the members from that TC committee, they will convey all the sectors, and most of actually after just formulating the standards, most of the industries and other customers, they apply for the certifications. That is for as per that NS, and after getting the NS, that will be this is the main procurement. They facilitate the procurement process of that standards. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, it's a long process actually, it depends upon the standards. Sometimes we also adopt the foreign standards also. Actually, we are demand of the customers. We sometimes we make the standard from by certain, we just in the during the formation standard also we just adopt the either Indian standards or sometimes from the Bangladesh, sometimes it depends upon the our situations and the demand. But sometimes we locally, for those the Lokta paper, sometimes the ingenious products, we make certain resources on that, and we do make the standards from our side. But mainly we formulate the standards especially for the certification process. Actually, we are, that is our main functions before making the, because we are certifying the products as per our any standards. Without any standards, we can't certify the products. That's why that is the same process that is we last time in 2077 the standard sanitary pad, the standard of the sanitary pad was formulated, and this, on the basis of that standards, the few companies apply for the NS here, and the ongoing, that is the Jasmine Hygiene, that is the sanitary pad from that products, is now on the process of the certification. We are going to give this product certification maybe very shortly. It's going on our process. Yeah, actually, is there any questions?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So we will get back to you in a few minutes, and there are some few questions that have come. So we will talk about that after we are done with the panel discussion. And now we will move to Dr. Jiblal Pokhrel, who is the member secretary of the Nepal CRS company. Sir, so we'd like to know, in what ways has the CRS company been involved in the development or the advocacy of standards of menstrual products?
Thank you, Jyotika. Nepal CRS company, we are a social marketing company, and we've been for last 42 years, we've been social marketing the contraceptives, and now we have enlarged our field, and we have ventured into the MHM menstrual hygiene management as well. And we were supposed to launch the product last year, but because of the COVID situation, that got delayed. And finally, touched by end of September, the biodegradable sanitary napkins will arrive in the country. And we have a plan to sort of like intervene in around 600 schools in Province 7, 4 districts of Province 7. And during this procurement of the biodegradable sanitary napkins, we ourselves were trying to find the right product. And we also, because it was a donor-funded project as well, we decided it's best to go for the biodegradable napkins. We started with oxo biodegradable. That's why my earlier question to Tanya and was that, then we sort of like later on revised that to compostable sanitary napkins. And for the procurement, we wanted some sort of standards for ourselves. And at that time, we looked around. Nepal did not have a standards of its own, so we adopted the international standards. Whatever the standards that we adopted was ISO, based on ISO 17088, or that's also Indian standard 17088. We adopted those, and later on we sort of like, during the discussion with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare Division, we also sort of like advised them, maybe Nepal also needs to adopt, if it is adopting for the biodegradable napkins, then we should be adopting the standards for the compostable napkins. That's how the sort of our involvement in advising role, so to say, to Family Welfare Division on the standards for the sanitary napkins.
Very interesting, sir. So along similar lines, so are the standards also like relevant for the products that are imported, and like what is your experience while importing menstrual products and like while checking their standards and things like that?
Okay, I mean, let me start by what our experience about 2 years ago when we were trying to find the manufacturers of the compostable sanitary napkins. There were, I mean, not in Nepal, there was one cooperative, I mean, supported by GIZ, and that was making the biodegradable napkins in a very, very small scale. Whereas in India, there were only few producers of the compostable sanitary napkins. But 2 years down the line, if I search the net for the suppliers of the biodegradable napkins, especially compostable ones, I think the choice has increased in India as well. There are a lot more manufacturers in India as well. So now on, I think this the momentum has gained for the biodegradable sanitary napkins, and there is a larger acceptance of the biodegradable napkins as well. So I think it is easing out, and I see a possibility. I see a future where the biodegradable napkins will be as easy to get as the normal commercial sanitary napkins.
Okay, that was very interesting. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So it was very interesting insight. So now we move to Ms. Kshetra Saud, who is the manager of Jivan Jyoti Women's Cooperative. Kshetraji, तपाईं हुनुहुन्छ यहाँ?
हजुर छु म्याम, छु यही छु।
हजुर, म्याडम नमस्ते। हामीलाई चाहिँ अलिकति जान्न मन लागेको कुरा के हो भन्दाखेरि नि हैन, यो जुन यो मेन्स्ट्रुअल प्रोडक्टको यो जुन मापन हुन्छ नि, त्यसको बारेमा चाहिँ तपाईलाई के कति थाहा छ हैन, अनि त्यसपछि त्यो बारेमा अलिकति भनिदिनुहुन्छ कि भनेर।
अब त्यसको मापनमा म्याम अब त्यसले अलिकति हैन बजारमा स्ट्यान्डर्डता कसरी ल्याउने एउटा त्यो हो। अनि अर्को चाहिँ अब त्यसले हामीलाई त्यो ब्लडहरु कसरी एब्जर्ब गर्छ, कतिको गर्छ भनेर, कुनैलाई धेरै हुन्छ कुनैलाई थोरै हुन्छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ कसरी गर्ने, अब कसैले त्यही युज गर्दा एकदमै राम्रो छ, यो स्ट्यान्डर्ड राम्रो छ भन्छ, कसैले त्यसैलाई नै हामीलाई चाहिँ स्ट्यान्डर्ड भएन, हामीलाई पुगेन भन्छ। त्यसैले अलिकति त्यसमा चाहिँ कसरी गर्ने भन्ने बारेमा गर्नुपर्ने छ म्याम, त्यति चाहिँ फरक छ। अब कसले भन्छ त्यसको स्पेस अलि लामो भएको भए त्यसलाई स्ट्यान्डर्ड हुन्थ्यो भन्ने हुन्छ। अब हामीले हेर्दा मार्केटमा चलिरहेको जस्तो विस्परको र यसको स्ट्यान्डर्ड अलिक फरक नै छ। त्यसैले यसलाई चाहिँ बढीभन्दा बढी स्ट्यान्डर्डता कसरी बनाउने भन्ने बारेमा अलिकति गर्नु नै पर्ने छ। हामीले पनि युज गरेर त्यहाँ समुदायहरुमा दिँदाखेरि कसैले राम्रो छ भनेर त्यसको मापन गरेका छन् भने कसैले हामीले फिडब्याक दिएका थियौँ, कसैले भनेका छन् होइन अलि यसको स्ट्यान्डर्डता त्यति भएन, एजअप गर्ने क्षमता कम छ, ब्लड एजअप जसको ब्लड बढी हुन्छ त्यसको कम छ भनेर यसरी भनिरहेछ म्याम। यसलाई चाहिँ यति नै हामीले अलि बुझाइरहेछ यसको।
हजुर धन्यवाद क्षेत्रजी। अर्को प्रश्न चाहिँ तपाईको लागि चाहिँ अब जस्तो तपाईहरु त लोकल कोअपरेटिभ हुनुभयो हैन, तपाईहरुले चाहिँ त्यो कम्पोस्टेबल स्यानिटरी प्याड त्यो जुन हामी भन्छौं नि बायोडिग्रेडेबल त्यस्तो खालको केही बनाउने सोच्नु भएको छ कि हैन? सोच्नु भएको छ भने चाहिँ अब त्यसमा के च्यालेन्जेसहरु छ हैन, तपाईहरुलाई त्यसमा के गाह्रो हुन्छ भन्ने त्यो पनि सोच्नु भएको छ कि? त्यो बारेमा अलिकति भनिदिनुहुन्छ कि हामीलाई?
हस् म्याम, हामीले चाहिँ अब त्यो हाम्रो कम्पोस्टेबल हो अनि हाम्रो चाहिँ सडेर जान्छ कुहिएर जान्छ भनेर त्यसको बारेमा हामी बताइ नै रहेछौँ। हामी समूहमा गएर त्यसको बारेमा केही कुरा भनिरहेछौँ। भने तापनि केही उहाँहरूले भन्छ राम्रो छ तर त्यसको लागि एकदम राम्रो जल्ने बेला पोल्दाखेरि कि हामी डिस्टर्ब गर्दाखेरि डिस्पोज गर्दाखेरि एकदम सजिलै डिस्पोज हुन्छ भनेर हामी कहाँ फिडब्याक आएको छ भने अर्को प्याडले के भन्छ मार्केटमा चलेको जो एकदम 4 घण्टा टिकाउ हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ टिकाउ हुँदैन, भनेर चाहिँ त्यही भएर अति असजिलो भएको छ भन्ने कुरा पनि गरिरहेछन् तर यो छ यसको लागि कम्पोस्टेबल हुनाले राम्रो छ भन्ने पनि आछ म्याम हामीले त्यसको बारेमा पनि छलफल गरिरहेको छौँ हाम्रो कम्पोस्टेबल हो राम्रो छ जताततै कुहिन्छ अनि माटोमा गाडिदिँदाखेरि पनि यो मल भएर जान्छ चाहिँ भनेर हामीले यसको बारेमा छलफल चाहिँ चलाइरहेछौँ
हजुर धन्यवाद भनेपछि तपाईहरुले एकदम मिक्स खालको कुराहरु भएछ है आफ्नो त्यो कोअपरेटिभमा अब त्यसलाई चाहिँ अब कसरी अगाडि लान सकिन्छ या हुन्छ नि कसले चाहिँ भन्दै भन्ने बरु अलिकति त्यो हुन्छ नि पक्का कुरा आउँछ भन्ने खालको बारेमा तपाईहरुलाई केही जानकारी छ त्यस्तो
अब चाहिँ हामीले यसको बारेमा पक्का नै उहाँहरूलाई अलि विश्वास गर्नलाई नगरपालिकाहरूसँग कोर्डिनेसन गर्यो भने सङ्घ संस्थाहरूसँग जस्तो अस्पष्टको यसमा भएका भन्छ नि सरकारवालाहरूसँग अलिकति त्यस्तो समन्वय मिटिङहरू चलाएर उहाँहरूले चाहिँ अझै भन्यो भने अझ राम्रो जान्छ मेसेजहरू नेपाल सरकारसँग त हामीले मिलेर गयो भने नगरपालिकासँग मिलेर गयो भने र यसको उत्पादन वृद्धि उत्पादन पनि धेरै भयो भने धेरै गर्न सक्यो भने चाँडो चाँडो हामीले सबैसँग कोर्डिनेसन गर्न सक्छौँ त्यसमा
हजुर 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 धन्यवाद क्षेत्रजी तपाईलाई अरु केही च्यालेन्जेस या यहाँ केही सोध्न मन लागेको कुराहरू त्यस्तो केही छ होला
यसमा म्याम च्यालेन्जहरू धेरै अब भर्खरै सुरुवात गरेको हुनाले धेरै छ अब कच्चा पदार्थको बारेमै जस्तो हजुरले अहिले स्ट्यान्डर्ड भन्नुभयो नि अब स्ट्यान्डर्डकै कस्तो चाहिँ स्ट्यान्डर्ड हुने भन्ने नै हामीले नै कच्चा पदार्थको बारेमै नै थाहा छैन के मेन भन्ने हो भने त्यसमा छैन अनि यसको अब मिसिनहरूको पनि टेक्निक पर्सनहरू अलिकति नभएको हुनाले अब बाहिरबाट ट्रेनर मगाइयो एकछिनको लागि एक हप्तामा अब हाम्रो बहिनीहरूले कति सिक्यो हामीले कति सिक्यौँ त्यसको लागि फलोअप गर्नलाई अझ यसलाई रिफ्रेसर भएको भने अझै राम्रो बेस्ट हुन्थ्यो अनि अर्को यो टेक्निकको ज्ञान नलेज छैन त्यहीमा हो हाम्रो अब उत्पादनमा हामीले सोचेको के थियो भने उत्पादन एकदम फास्ट थुप्रै हुन्छ होला सोचेको थियौँ तर काम गर्ने 4 जना लगाएर नि हामी दैनिकमा 100-150 प्याकेट उत्पादन गर्न मात्रै सक्न लागेका छौँ यसमा पनि ढिलाइ छ अलिकति उत्पादन मेसिनमा ढिलाइ भयो अब हामीले जो यो फ्याक्ट्री नै चलाउने हो भने उत्पादनमा ढिलाइ भयो यस्तो कुराहरूमा समस्या आछ अनि यो समयमा यसको चाहिँ अब यो डाई मेसिन अलि बजारको त्यो हुन त हामीले नापेर नै हेरेको त्यसको र हाम्रो स्ट्यान्डर्ड के छ भन्दा लम्बाइ इक्वल छ बराबरी छ तर विस्परको र हाम्रो लम्बाइ चाहिँ बराबरी छ तर विस्परको अलिक मोटो देखेको हुनाले उसको मोटो छ राम्रो छ भन्छन् हाम्रो डाई चाहिँ अलिकति सानो भयो कि जस्तो पनि लागिरहेछ त्यो मेसिनको अनि यो डाईहरूलाई सफा गर्नुपर्ने टाइममा अलिकति यस्ता प्रब्लमहरू आइरहेछन् म्याम अहिले चाहिँ हामीले गर्दाखेरि अब अहिले 1 महिनामा बल्ल हामीले 1800 लगभग चाहन्छौँ पिसेजहरू 5000 हामीले पिसेज गऱ्यो भने प्याकेटेजमा त्यही 18-1900 हामीसँग प्याकेटहरू उत्पादन गर्न सकेका छौँ र हामी चाँडो बढीभन्दा बढी उत्पादन कसरी गर्ने र हामीले बजारमा बढीभन्दा बढी गयो भने बल्ल हामी सक्सेस हुन्छौँ जस्तो लाग्छ के म्याम त्यो थोरै हुन्छ अनि कता जाने त त्यो कोर्डिनेसन गर्ने थोरै प्याड लिएर ल यहाँ हामी प्याड उत्पादन गर्दैछौँ भन्न त मिलेन नि त जहाँसम्म त्यो लाग्छ अब त्यही हो हाम्रो हुन्छ
ए हजुर हजुर हुन्छ क्षेत्रजी थ्याङ्क यू सो मच तपाईँको टाइमको लागि है So just to help summarize what Kshetraji said, she basically talked about the challenges that she faces while developing menstrual products and about how she gets mixed reviews while somebody says that the pads are very nice, some of them say that they don't match the standards and things like that, and maybe she was asking if some organizations or maybe nagarpalikas could help them in actually developing a certain standard so that they can maintain it, and also that they're trying to create compostable, they are actually creating compostable sanitary pads which have been easily composted, and also that they're trying to scale up their productions and then go into the mainstream market. So that is all for now from Kshetraji. Now we move back to Ms. Kishmanandar from National Bureau of Standards.
Jatika, before Kishman, I would just like to add what she said. So most important to learn by Kishu madam and our Tanya and Sumit. So she was saying that being the local manufacturers, they do not know the exact specifications and quality requirements, right? She was highlighting. So they need some sort of orientation or training, what type of quality standards really needed to promote their quantity, because they want to expand their manufacturing, right? So these days they are producing some 1,800 or 19, maximum 2,000 per month, the set, right? They want to increase the number, but they do not know the quality standards required. They want to reach out to the market outlets. They want to sell more, but it seems they lack technical standards. They do not know the quality standards. So there is a gap actually needed. There is a gap actually to disseminate, as Kishu madam saying, there is no mechanism for dissemination of quality standards required by the manufacturers. Let us say Jasmine Hygiene, they know they are the member also, they have taken the NIC, the Nepali standards certification, they are in the process, but the local manufacturer, they are not checking any certification, or even they do not know any quality standards needed. So I think it's quite important, being the local manufacturer. They are producing. They want to increase their market, but they lack the quality standard knowledge. Maybe Kishu madam could highlight how they could, the Nepal Bureau of Standards could disseminate the standards needed in the market, right? Okay, that's all. Over to Jyotika.
Thank you, sir. So Kishu madam, do we have you here?
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am, so along similar lines of what Kshetraji has said about compostability and things like that. So from your point of view, do you think compostability should be focused? How do you view it, and how do you think should the Bureau go forward with the idea of compostability?
Actually, that point, we can't say about that. It's we have some committee, and from the committee they will decide it. Either way, actually, it depends. Mostly that point will be discussed will only on the technical committees, especially for that standards. And the Bureau of Standards can't do, but especially the standard committee, that technical committee which formulated that standards, that's again technical committee will make the meeting, especially for the revise or sometimes update that standards, especially if something happened, if something changes need to be done, anything, whatever we have to change that standards, and some point of that standards that responsible for those technical committee which formulate that standards. So if some problems is going on, then that problem has to be specifically first. We have to, that problem that has to be come from the other sides to the Bureau, so that we also call that technical committee for the solve that problems. Yes.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. Now,
yeah, actually, the Bureau of Standards only facilitate the standard formulations, and whatever these problems that will be handled by the technical committees for the who's are the responsible for that formulate the standards.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, madam. So now we move back to Mr. Puneet Sarda, the director of Sarda Group of Industries. So Puneet, do we have you here?
Yes.
Okay. So from the point of view as a manufacturer, has the introduction of standards for sanitary pads brought any changes in the way you work? And if yes, how, like, could you reflect upon them a little bit?
Yes. Since the standard has been formulated, we have done quite significant changes in our manufacturing processes. The most important change that we have done is to meet the requirement of microbiological requirements of having the fungal and bioburden, fungal and bacterial bioburdens. To meet that standard, we had to establish a microbiological lab. So that is one major significant changes that we have done in our manufacturing, and the current. I would like to speak about the earlier standard that was in place in India. It was made in 1980. That standard was revised in 2019. So almost for 39 years, the standard made in 1980 was in the market. So the one significant change from that to this was the new standard included the microbiological requirements of a sanitary pad, which is very, very important. So to meet the microbiological standard, to meet the physical standards of sanitary pads is not so difficult. It is very simple, and almost all the products which are available in the market exceeds the requirement of the physical requirements of a sanitary napkin as written in the standard. But microbiologically, yes, microbiological is the challenge, and microbiological is something that really affects the consumer, the user of the sanitary pad. If it is not, if it is contaminated, or if it is, it can bring a lot of ill health to the consumer. So we have to meet the microbiological. It is not just about setting a lab. It is about the entire manufacturing methods and processes, right from the entry of the workers, to the storage of the raw materials, to the cleaning of the machines, to the storage of the finished products. So it has been a very big learning and very big exercise, and now we understand our products which were which we used to sell in the market, say 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, and now we have now, and the products which we have, which we can currently find in the market, we have done the trials and testing, and we now realize the importance of the microbiological aspect of the standard. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your input, Puneetji. Now, thank you so much. We'll move to Maheshji. Do we have you here, Maheshji?
Mahesh, you are on mute. Your microphone is muted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Maheshji, thank you so much for your time and for making it to this event. So just to give a brief introduction, Maheshji is the founder of HICAF. And so, we'd like to know about your role in supporting the developing the standards of the menstrual products. So if you could give just a brief idea about all that.
Okay, actually, Health, Environment and Climate Action Foundation, HICAF, is the organization who is working on the health and environment issues and climate issues
So while we are working in this issue, we found that the sanitary products are one of the issues which is neglected, which is not taught by anyone. So we started to do some kind of a literature research globally, and we found that there is a huge issue of health impact and also the environment impact. So these are two of our focus. As being a health and environment based organization, this is our role. We thought that we started to bring that. And meantime, we also thought that there is no standard. So we did the advocacy to the Bureau of Standards, and I was the one of the member of technical committee of the standard formation. So when we signed last time was, I think, I don't know, it may be a year and a half ago, we signed this the document. After that, the meeting is not held, but I see now the biodegradable pad is not mandatory or something like a optional. So I just surprised to see that change now, but we have not thought in that way. But basically, I'm a little bit late. I was out of capital, and I just come back. So main thing I want to talk to you about two things: whoever the manufacturer, or user, or whoever concerned to this, or the buyer, or the supplier, because we have thought only about the business of the pad. In Nepal, there are 13 crore pad has been used in Nepal by our population. It's only 15%. Not everyone buys the pad. But the question is, have we ever thought about what is the health impact of the currently available pads? Those multinational pads, we have never talked about. We talk about the microbiology. We never talk about the chemical, what chemical we are using in that pad. None of the product has tell that in my pad, these are the chemicals that have been used. There is no disclosure of that. And due to that, when we did a literature research, we found that most of these pads has a volatile organic compound, VOC and furans, which is creating the long-term exposure, will creating to the brain impairment, asthma, disabilities, certain cancers, and thyroid, infertility. These are happening. If you see now, currently, we have a lot of female population is going for thyroid disorder. If you see the doctors, they are very busy treating many of the females are there. If you see, not compared to male, there is no research done. But we find that this is some kind of a relation is there. Similarly, we always like to have a white pad. So for that, the manufacturer use the bleach. So that bleach will go inside from vagina and is absorbed, and then it will cause the cancer. It is already done. Research has been already done. We have already done this collection, and we found that there are issues on that. But have we ever talk about it? Never. The consumers doesn't know about it. The manufacturer doesn't disclose it. Manufacturer doesn't tell about it. Microbiology problem, we can solve it. We can just do sterilization, we can solve that microbiology problem. But how we solve the chemical problem? That is the question we have to think. And every manufacturer or supplier have a responsibility. And so similarly, we have like there are like other if you use longer time, you have a TSS, toxic syndrome is there. Those are things, but not now the user doesn't know about this. I think it's time to make people aware about their health impact. And then we compare with the compostable or the biodegradable pad, but not oxidizable. Because I see in the past, we have a fight for the refusing the oxidizable pad. Many companies are trying to enter that market about oxidizable pad. Oxidizable pad is very, very bad. It's a plastic things, So we have to think about the one from the health eye and from the environment eye. So talking about health eye, I told about the problems of the existing pads. And also when we talk about environment axis, all this contain sap, all this contain plastics, cover, top sheet is not biodegradable. So all it goes to the environment. You can imagine a 13 crore pad comes to the street. Someone, I see the question there, what is done in schools? I think Siddhi sir has that question. Schools are very, very poor in management of this sanitary pad. Some are promoting boarding of pads, which is not allowed now by the government policy. We should not bond the pad. we have to find an environment solution. And where is a school? If you give them a wrong environment education, how does they grow they will be environment friendly in future? So we have to think from these two eyes, and all the manufacturer has their role, but otherwise we are increasing the disease burden. There is no research on that yet. So I think from the MHM Alliance, we have to be advocacy and those things also. And we are also working the disposable sanitary pad, and we found that none of these pads are been environment friendly. So we have to talk about how to make them environment friendly. So there are research has been going on about the other pads like the banana based pad or the pine wood pads. All this is going on. We are working with them closely, and luckily in this year we have got one researcher who is working under our organization, doing a research from Australia, University of Sunshine Coast. She's working under our guidance about the biodegradable pad. So I think in a year period, we can have some kind of result from that. We are doing a research with the University of Sunshine Coast, and one of the master's students is doing research with us under our guidance on this pad. So my only concern is we all should be responsible for the consumers. That's our duty. And we have to talk about them about every household, every woman should know how should they dispose the pad, or they should just wrap in the other plastic and just throw in the landfill. Is that the solution? So this is the question we have to ask to every consumer, and this is a question we have to ask the manufacturer. They have to tell the consumers how should they dispose their pads environment friendly. There should be instruction. I think so. I think the manufacturer should have a greater role here. They have to be also environment responsible, health responsible for the consumers. I don't think the manufacturer is health responsible at the moment. When I see these pads, I'm not talking about the manufacturer in Nepal. I'm talking about globally, and there are global concern has been going on now. I think recently there was a talk where I gave talk to the Australian community and in Australia, and they also feel it's very important. So I think there are a lot of concern has been raised now, but we have to be unite everyone. And I would like to request the Bureau of Standard to be more strict on these issues. And also another thing I want to raise that there are some questions from, I think, Tanya or someone, I see the testing. So we have to empower the Bureau of Standard. We have to maybe do the advocacy to the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Industry, and tell about what the role the Bureau of Standards have, and they should have their own lab facility more stronger on these issues, I think. So we, as a MHM Alliance, we can do that. We can go and meet people, do the advocacy on that. I think that is when we have a lab facility stronger, then the standard implementation will be more stricter and more the user friendly. So in this context, I think we have a greater role play from the alliance, and also in that perspective, I think we have to go, and this point of discussion should not be stopped today. It is a starting point, and we have to have a discussion regularly on this issue, and so that we can make the business, responsible business, the manufacturer, the supplier, they also should think that if I bring these pads to Nepal, supplying these pads, how I am responsible for that? Because if they are creating the cervical cancer, they are creating the brain impairment. Whose role is that? It's the role of not the user. This is the role of who's manufacturing. Who is the something like we are having the food with the contamination, contaminated food. Same thing. We are using a contaminated pad. So we have to be, I think, very serious in this issue. That's what I want to bring. And in this aspect, I think we are at the moment we are working very, very hard. We are working with the Menstrual Alliance of India, Menstrual Alliance of India, with Tanya and other colleagues in Indian. We have Indian colleagues who are working together. We have in other countries we have a collaboration on that. So we want to have a very much clear instruction to our manufacturer, and we have to make the manufacturer responsible and the supplier responsible. And also consumer, we have to be aware. Let every girls in the school know what kind of pad they should use, what impact they have. That's our duty, I think. In that context, I would like to invite all of you to work in this together, and we can make a change. We can bring a change, and we can make a more we can decrease the disease burden in that context. And in terms of
Thank you
waste
very much,
management,
Mahesh. Just because of the looking a little bit to the time, I just
Right.
wanted to thank you because you have summarized really well how this is everyone's business in a way, no? And standards is not technical, it is open for everyone. Thank you so much. Jyotika, yes, I think you are gonna post some questions still. I'm just, because I'm the timekeeper, that's why I came in.
Sure. Thank you, Tabia. So there is so because of time constraints, we'll not be taking all the questions. So however, we promise that we'll send you a report of the event that we do. So for that, I'd like to request all of you to kindly fill the form, and the link is provided in the chat box. So there is one question for Kishu ma'am. So it's hi, yeah.
Sorry, because yes, I just got a message from Tanya, and she was asking if she could do her presentation first, and then we pose some questions.
Oh yeah, sure.
There might be input relevant for it. So.
Okay, sure, yeah. So Tanya will be from Tanya from MHAI will be giving a short presentation. So I hand it over to Tanya.
Thank you. Thanks, Jyotika, and thanks, Tabia, for taking my request. Much appreciated. We're going to be talking a little bit more based on our research on the experience of compliance to standards. And a lot of what has been discussed today, I think already indicates towards that. Like, there are barriers, the standard has been created, it is in a structure and form, but not everybody is able to adopt it due to various barriers, right? Small scale producers do not have awareness. Even large scale producers, like Puniji was mentioning, some of the costs of testing are really high, for example, biocompatibility testing. So I think we have to understand that the standards creation process has to be a consultative and ongoing process. And if there are modifications needed to make it easier to comply with, then we should be open to that. We'll just go into some of the lessons that we have seen from other countries on enhancing compliance and how we can support that effort now that the standard has been created. So the challenges that we've seen in the standards development process itself, and those have also come out from the discussion right now, is that the representation on the table is very important. Often, it's either just larger manufacturers who are present on the table, or because of limited awareness of which other experts should be there, or lack of budgetary availability for including experts, often, who are required to say travel to a place or something. So we are not able to have the kind of balanced stakeholder representation that is necessarily required. So a lot of inputs that are coming in right now, for example, on microbiological issues, on the pH issue, on biocompatibility, on costs, all of these are ideally discussed in the committee. But if a microbiologist, a material scientist, a gynecologist is not present, then you cannot have a balanced view on these things. So it's essential to make sure that those kinds of stakeholders are present. Again, one of the challenges we've also seen is that reference standards are often not easy to access. They are paid standards, they're not easily available. So as a sort of a solution, what we've tried to do is develop the database of standards, which Sumati earlier shared with all of you. And that's at least the first step in making it slightly open source. But this is also an ongoing effort to see if standards can be made available more freely to stakeholders, within the country at least. Another issue is lack of technical data. So a lot of questions that are coming up right now related to what should be the pH of the vagina, biocompatibility. Does a pad actually cause cervical cancer? Are the chemicals in the pad, to that extent, or the percentages are high enough to actually cause cancer? Those are questions we don't necessarily always have answers for. So we still need actual evidence on some of these issues. For example, toxicity of products, of specific chemicals that are included in the products, related with the duration of use. So if a pad is being used next to the vagina for 6 hours versus 8 hours versus 12 hours, what is the likelihood of absorption? Also, how does the volume of blood impact? So for example, if the blood is being absorbed by the pad, the integrity of the top layer really influences whether the sap inside is going to come out or not. If it stays inside, it's fine, it's safe. But if it ends up coming out, then it can be harmful. So again, we don't have enough data to say what kind of absorption or additional measures should we look at, in addition to absorption for that. Also, we don't have data on relative impact of different products on the risk of RTIs and how that varies with, again, duration of use. So using a pad for 6 hours, using a fluff pad for 6 hours versus using an ultra thin pad for 6 hours versus using the same products for 8 hours. How does it impact the vaginal flora and the consequent risk of infections? So all this is something that data is actually still lacking. We also need clinical data on the safety of menstrual cups, which has been one of the barriers in including this product as a choice for users in the country, because not just in Nepal, but also in India, we don't have clinical data on safety of menstrual cups, and that's posed a barrier for creation for standard for this product again. So as some sort of solutions, what we are proposing is that one is that if the regulator does not have budgets, and which is something we've often seen for identification and engagement of key experts, can advocacy groups come in and play that role so that it's a more balanced table, which is creating the standard. Also, can organizations doing advocacy or donors look at financial support for research on some of these key evidence gaps, which are influencing standards not just in Nepal, India, South Asia, but across the globe, especially in LMIC settings. And the database of standards, like we said, is one small effort in enhancing access to some of this information. Next slide, please. When we talk about compliance, it's also important to understand what are the kinds of models that exist for procurement. So while there is a very vibrant private sector market that exists for provision and purchase of pads, there's also a large government market which is increasing by the day, especially with free distribution programs, and also programs for enhancing access as the last mile. So the kinds of models that we've come across in LMIC settings are basically three. One, they're either a small, and one representation we've seen of that is where a smaller organization like an SHG or community-based organization is doing manufacturing at the last mile. Their quality control has often proven to be an issue because of not having budgetary allocations and also limited know-how on quality control. There's also state level or more centralized procurement by ministries, by departments, which for distribution at a larger scale. There is a higher likelihood of standards being followed, but again, the procurement stakeholders really need to be sensitized on the standards, on what should be the specifications for procurement. Similarly, we've also seen in many cases where policies exist at national level, the regional or the municipal authorities are the ones who are actually doing the procurement. There's decentralized procurement based on whatever local initiatives are designed. And there again, sensitization of those who are doing that procurement on the standards becomes very, very important. Next slide, please. Now, once standards are created, there are challenges in compliance from the perspective of different stakeholders. From the perspective of enterprises, manufacturers, what are the challenges? The challenges are one, whether the standard even applies to me. Is it a voluntary standard? Is it a mandatory standard? Does it apply to imports, exports? So clarifying that is I think one of the key issues there. Also, standards only cover outcomes, which are like test outcomes, what is the final bioburden on the product, or what is whether the overall product is safe in terms of material safety or biodegradability, etc. However, all of this is a result of the processes which go into manufacturing. And the processes are where a lot of the quality control can be brought in addition to the testing, which is often high cost. So can we look at, bringing together knowledge on how those quality control processes can be put in place, especially for smaller manufacturers who don't have access to that information. Also, even amongst smaller scale manufacturers, there's limited understanding of what quality is, what are the testing requirements. So just general awareness is lacking. Also, for mostly government procurement, we've also seen that small organizations are not even often eligible for sort of large scale tenders. So given this situation, they're not even able to play that role in the market and do not feel the need to comply with standards where tenders include them. Also, most procurement that we've seen across regions and countries, the technical specifications are highly variable. So if a manufacturer is supplying to different states within India, or different municipalities within Nepal, or even different countries within Africa, the technical specifications vary so much that they have to modify the product, and that adds costs. That makes it more unaffordable for the consumer at the end of the day. So there's need for harmonization of the standards. And reusable products. As in the case of Nepal, reusable products are not always included in procurement because the technical specifications do not exist, which is why we are advocating for creation of standards for not just disposable, but also reusable products, so that then programs can look at including these products within the choice that can be provided to consumers. From the perspective of government procurement stakeholders, what are the challenges in compliance? One, they don't always have the full database of suppliers. There's limited database of suppliers available to them. They don't have knowledge of what are the technical specifications. And there's limited common understanding, like we said, of what standards and quality really mean. Another issue is that often budgets are made based on, a minimum spend per user, which is, okay, one pack used per user per month or across 13 months in a year, which basically means that you are putting reusable products out of the picture, because reusable products have higher upfront cost. The costing, the budgeting has to be done differently for those kinds of products. So if we look at budgeting, then it has to be different if we want to provide that choice to consumers as well. From the perspective of users, what are the challenges in compliance? One, again, users are not really aware of the fact that standards exist. What do they really mean? And there is lack of conversations on quality and choice. So if we are talking about reusable products, if you're talking about menstrual cups, cloth pads, that choice is not really seen in the broader media. They're only talking about or hearing about sanitary pads in the broader media. So they think that that is the healthy choice for them. So including these products in the broader media, along with what quality means for them, is important. So some of the solutions that we have seen that others have adopted is one that can enhance compliance, is that standards to be situated within an overarching menstrual health policy. An example of that exists in Nepal itself, where the specifications have been included in the Ministry of Education's program on menstrual health. So that makes it, almost like a mandatory requirement, at least for that government procurement. So if there is a menstrual health policy for the country overall, then situating the standard within that is a way to see that compliance is increased. Educating consumers and media advocacy also on key identification marks. What is the Nepal Bureau of Standards? Is there a mark that that should be there on the product? And so consumers should be made aware of that. Also, can key ministries, health, education, sorry,
just the disturbance here.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so can key ministries come together and look at a centralized procurement guidance that can be provided to municipalities, to regional administrative officers for procurement of products? So what are the different types of baskets of products that are available? What are the specifications that should be used? What are the different types of supply chain models that can be used, some of which we shared exist? And also, what are the roles of the municipality in the procurement and distribution, particularly with respect to the quality control and monitoring? In India, we've seen state medical corporations play a very sort of important role here for centralized procurement, where they actually ensure QC, quality control of the facility that's manufacturing of the stock, and plug in those monitoring gaps. But they don't engage when it's more sort of regional procurement. So bringing in an agency like that, which can play that monitoring role for quality control, becomes very important. Also, capacity building by the regulator for manufacturers, government, stakeholders, and others who are procuring products is absolutely paramount, which we have seen from the discussions. There are multiple ways where this can be done. We understand regulators don't always have the budget for it. We saw South Africa Bureau of Standards offer trainings like this to small scale manufacturers after publishing the standards. But they took support from, the African Coalition of MHM there took support from UNFPA in South Africa to support that activity. So it's more of a collaborative effort of donors also supporting these efforts. Kenya also has subsidized all mandated tests at government labs. Cost for testing at private labs remains same, but at least at government labs, it's the cost has been subsidized for manufacturers, which reduces barriers to compliance to testing. So these are some of the best practices we've seen and could potentially be adopted to enhance compliance. Next slide, please. Also, making sure that the database of government certified, government assisted labs for specific tests is available can aid compliance. Often not all labs would be doing all of the tests. Tests like pH, absorbency, etc. are easier, and you would have labs who would be doing them. But things like bioburden testing, which Puniji was referring to, or biocompatibility testing, not all labs can do that. So identifying which labs can do it, what are the costs for those testing, at what frequency the testing has to be done. I think just compiling that information would be a great resource for anybody who's looking to meet those standards. Also, if something could be looked at in terms of technical assistance and targeted subsidies for small scale manufacturers for just quality control in supporting developing internal capacity for testing processes, covering testing and certification costs, even accessing support through consulting partners, through technical research institutions, or even R&D focused manufacturers as more of a service rather than a product. And these could go a long way in supporting the overall industry in the country. Also defining minimum testing criteria. So I think somebody alluded to this during the conversation, that we need to make sure, I think Ram Charitraji mentioned this, that the standard needs to be something that's feasible and that can actually be complied with. It's not necessary to have all the testing in the world because it won't make any difference if you're not really, meeting with it. So for some things, can we look at alternatives, like for hygiene testing? Can we have an option for, or additionally have some option for process guidance through standard operating procedures? For example, moisture content of raw materials, storage, how should that be done? So basic guidance, humidity conditions in storage rooms, what should that be? So just basic guidance on those kinds of things can go a long way in achieving the outcomes that we are wanting to achieve without actually adding the cost of testing. And then allowing for raw material certifications on some of these things like hygiene or biocompatibility, color fastness for reusable products, dimensional stability for reusable products, where it won't really change once incorporated into the final product, especially biocompatibility. So these are things which need to be looked at. In the India context, I would just mention that we did a webinar like this with the Bureau of Indian Standards, and biocompatibility again came up as a big barrier for, not just pad manufacturers, but even people who are working on masks or other medical textile products. And so based on feedback from all stakeholders, the Bureau for now has made biocompatibility an optional consideration because it was really limiting compliance, especially one of the parameters, which is, I think, skin sensitization, because it uses animal testing, etc. So just looking at all of these things from all angles will really go a long way in aiding compliance. That's it. Thank you. That's all from our end. And as a last comment, I would just also like to say that whichever component we look at, whether we look at hygiene, biocompatibility, compostability, it is important to look at what exists in terms of the context of the country. So if you're looking at including oxo-degradable products or oxo-biodegradable products, or compostable products, we need to see what infrastructure is there in the country to handle that waste. If a compostable product ends up in a landfill, it won't really make much of a difference. But if we are looking at an overarching policy where a compostable product is going into an industrial composting facility, or an oxo-biodegradable product is going into, say, a deep burial facility, then that makes sense. So we need to look at this question holistically rather than just a test. That's my little more than 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for all your input. It was very, very informational, and we hope that you could share your findings, your PowerPoints, so that we can have more ideas through it. So because of time constraints, we'll not be taking any questions right now, probably because all of you are very busy right now, and so we directly move to our national convener Gunraj Shrestha sir to provide the vote of thanks for this event. Gunraj sir.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, wonderful ideas sharing between Nepal and Tanya's research work and lesson from India and other overseas. Especially in this workshop, we have our director, National Bureau of Standards, Kishumanandar madam. So I think I also find there are a lot of things to learn from overseas and India, especially in Nepal. I think it's a very right time. Kishu madam at the beginning saying, yesterday while I was talking with Kishu madam, she was also saying these standards in Nepal, which have been set up, is a very primitive. A lot of things we need to develop. We need to improve the standards. So I think it's very right time, and I think this will be very helpful for Nepal also to improve our quality standards and the compliance. So Tanya has given, based on her research, global research, very interesting findings and proposed solutions also there. So when Tanya shares her findings, maybe we'll forward to all the participants here. So there is a request from some participants already. So we'll forward, share all these findings, and especially with our Bureau of Standards. So maybe if needed, we can sit together with Kishu madam. Maybe in future, if needed more, maybe we can have bilateral. Tanya's team and our Bureau of Standards, maybe we can have a separate meeting also to get more insight, for this quality of standards. So our National MHM Partners Alliance Nepal would be facilitating between Tanya and the Nepal Bureau of Standards if needed in future, right? So with this, so I think thank you at the last. So already 5 o'clock, almost 15 minutes over. So I would like to thank our Kishu madam, the chief guest and keynote speaker of this workshop, and Tanya and Sumit for outstanding these research findings. And all the participants, distinguished participants who participated in this workshop, and interacting through chat box also. We didn't have much time, the verbal communication, the interaction, but the chat box, through chat box, there are some interaction, right? So thank you very much, all the distinguished participants also. And nevertheless, I would like to thank Tavia and Jyotika for so wonderful moderation of this workshop. So, so I would like to commit. So when Tanya sends this PowerPoint, we'll share to all. And I think Kishu Madam also, if you have some PowerPoint, some materials, we can exchange Kishu Madam's presentation also, right? So once again, I would like to thank all panelists, chief guests, and Tanya and Sumati, all, and distinguished participants here. So we'll be more interacting in future also. This is very interesting one. So on behalf of MHMPA Nepal, so it's very exciting and very useful workshop indeed. So I would like to reiterate, we'll be continuously exchanging ideas for these quality products. So thank you very much again. So bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you all. It was
everyone.
great. It was a
Thank
great
you so
program.
much,
Thank you. Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I have posted some links to other webinars we've done on the issue and summary reports. So if anyone's interested, you can access those there, but we'll also share it by email.
Okay, great. That sounds
Okay. Thank you.
wonderful.
Okay, thank you all once again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
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 Let's meet again soon.